project into the Milan reality, we made the decision to involve three laboratories of urban design in the adventure, and especially to connect the three of them in relation to an important issue that is now dealt in the Milano reality, which is the relation between the city and the rivers. Not many citizens in Milano know that Milano has got two rivers. And so this was a relevant, challenge for the kind of a project we had to implement. And so we created this sort of, sub-project of the project in Milan, which is Milano Intorno lambro, so Milano around the Lambro River. And the main idea was, so this is the area of Milano interested by the Lambro River, and the main idea was to make the students to be engaged in the process of understanding what kind of role the design could have in the interaction with the citizens, with the communities, and so on. So the three, differently from the Belfast case, we didn't have a dedicated unit on community engagement. So our only value was the set of our ideas, the students, and our big commitment to achieve the result of making the river a key actor in the city. As you can see, these are the three areas along the river in which we involved the students, starting from the southern one and going up, and the last one up is the context in which we just closed the last experience with the students in this semester. So the three experiences are very different because the condition of community, the contexts are very different. In Parco Forlanini, the southest one, there are many activities going on. In this moment, there is a good push of some communities to achieve the making of this park, which is done just partially. University is involved in many different ways because they were the key actors, the driver of the Re Lambro master plan, so the making of the river, the plan for making the river first a natural resource because currently it is natural just for flooding, all the rest is not longer natural. And also public institutions have been strongly involved into this. So what the role of our that our class could play was sort of making urban projects to become a driver to make citizens sort of aware of the relevance of the river. So we tried to work with them to make them as protagonists of a design making which could be a sort of engine to develop the awareness of the citizens for the context, for the valuable context. This is the area, and it was not obviously it was not the output of the laboratory activities that we ran in the first semester of the project, but it was very important for the students to be engaged in this really active moment of the park making, and now we have many students involved still in this process, which is at the moment is in a sort of a stagnant condition, but they gained a sort of a sort of energy, and they are still pushing us to do things. And we have just closed a submission for some fundings to do more in this area with the students who were with us in the first classroom. And you see that the part of the parks is in the making, and this is considered to be so. There is a good interaction between this students' activism now and some initiatives, because we had a change in the city government, and so the situation is not so happy as it was in the beginning. The second case, so the park in the center of the image that I showed you earlier is completely different, because there is very difficult to understand what the community conditions are. Apparently, no communities there. Apparently, no civic movement is now active around the context. Although some big changes are taking place, apparently nobody is interested. And so we started with the students to conceive projects, designs as tools for creating communities. So we, and to attract institutions which are apparently disinterested, completely not interested in the area, to understand the potentials, or not to simply keep aside the situation. A river is there and some opportunities are there. And this, we experimented here the idea of community traps. This is the area of community traps. How can we develop engines, devices which can make communities to be created? This is a sort of, peripheral area where we have some settlements, informal settlements of people. The students were trying to sense the area, to understand what kind of, problems, not clear, not declared, sort of hidden needs could be not explicit, but still alive in the area. So we had the students had the opportunity to interact with both the municipality of Milan and the other municipality, because this is an area which is in between two different municipalities, and they could also start some very small experiments to understand whether these community traps could really work in this area as attracting people to become sort of, needs suppliers. Do anybody thinks that this is a relevant area in the city? The river is there, but they developed an alternative watershed there just to hide the river a bit better. And so it's a very strange situation. The third case is, these are some of the sensors results, output that the students collected with the help of Antonio Longo, that you can see in this picture, is the protagonist of this second teaching experiment. And the last park is Parco Lambro. So Parco Lambro is very different because it's the park in the area of Milano which somehow takes into account that the river is there. Still, the river smells a lot, so it's not always a comfortable condition, the interaction with the river, but the situation is that there are very strong communities inside this park, along this part of the river, and also outside the park, but the interaction between these two different worlds is not so strong. So the citizens try, with the students we tried to create the conditions to make this, you know, sort of reciprocity between the park and the surrounding areas and communities which are outside the park stronger. And this we just presented the work, and we are now committed with the students, although they are no longer our students because the course is committed to work for a couple of months longer to achieve the result that what we did in the class can become a resource for further reflection here. So I go briefly to conclusions because we, in the project, we achieved a sort of two-level reflection. The first one is general in terms of planning. In the case of Milano is more at the design scale, planning and participation in I would not say theoretical terms, but in general, not specifically to education, but most of the reflections obviously are related to how can we develop the skills in students, for students, together with the students in this, you know, ability to be creators or activators of the trading zones that Sandro was sort of presenting. It's a very complex activity. So obviously it should be clear that design can become instrumental to citizens' engagement, and important would be for them to test this, to make practical use of this instrument. They have to gain even in terms of skills of design, not only in terms of engagement. In terms of participation, it's difficult to how to say, it is complex to make them reflect on the dual role that participation can have. Participation can be the end, or can be a sort of instrumental process or feeding process to planning. This is very difficult for them. Most of the time they have the idea that the participation is relevant because it brings information to the planning process. It's very difficult to make for them to understand this reciprocity between the two processes. And also that sometimes participation may not be the most important thing to be done. Even for democracy, sometimes this cannot be, maybe not the best way to achieve it. Anyway, we could explore with them many roles of a designer or a planner. It can be a volunteer activist, so-called the recent literature on civic professionals. They can be facilitators, they can be networkers, they can be idea generators, supporters of activists, as it was the case in Aveiro, for example, consultants for the municipality, aligners. So they somehow it was very difficult to make them to test and experience all these roles that a planner or a designer should play. The students were enthusiastic. I have to say that this was a great experience for them. For us, maybe more than for them, but for them, surely, they were really, we have seen many of them all around our work. I think that it was a good achievement for us to make them understand that that if we gain this the awareness on this reciprocity, then the situation, although it's more complex to ambition the two practices in such a cyclical relationship, it's the key to make them be aware of the potentials of their technical expertise. And I think also some relevant reflections we could develop more in the end, maybe, of the process is that considering what the discussion now in terms of the missions of the universities, and considering the current reflections on the third mission of the university, well, we think that we are thinking that especially considering what some authors in our domain told that how to say, if we consider planning not really as a scientific disciplines, but or not only, but as a domain of practices, well, for us it's not so easy to consider the third mission as a third parallel one, but for us the exchange with the context feeds the work in teaching and research, and reciprocally teaching and research becomes a supplier of knowledge into the society, the reality. Thank you very much.